Hi, my name is Matthew. I'm a current student at Liberty University, completing my degree in psychology. Part of my capstone course was to interview a licensed professional counselor. After doing a tremendous amount of research and weighing the options of those in my area, I chose to interview Miss Megan Hill at Firm Foundations Counseling PLLC. There were quite a few reasons why I chose Miss Hill that I will touch on throughout this video and the interview process. But one of the biggest ones was after reading her profile and seeing that she is a member of the American Association of Christian Counselors. As somebody that is just starting my journey into psychology, I do want to make sure that I incorporate God first, and I wanted to find somebody that was doing that as well. Now, I did have a very structured, planned interview set before us. However, Ms. Hill, as I will touch on here in a little bit, is very passionate about her work, as well as providing guidance and assistance to those starting within the career of psychology. So she was answering a lot of questions before I got to them. It was a phenomenal interview. If we had more time, I'm sure I would have sat there for hours upon end, learning as much as I possibly could. To touch on Ms. Hill's qualifications, she does have a bachelor's degree in psychology from Cedarville University, as well as a master's degree in counseling ministries from Clark Summit University. She is a licensed professional counselor, or LPC. She works with adolescents, individuals, couples, and families. Now, she has been doing this for over 20 years, and in that time, she has gained a wealth of knowledge. And one of her favorite things about this role and this job is providing supervision and guidance to those that are just starting. She currently has 3 other members that work under her. One does not require the supervision due to her licensure, as the other one does. Now, during the interview process, we decided that we were going to focus on the private practice of Firm Foundations, as Ms. Hill is also a licensed professional counselor for her church. Those roles are a little bit different. Somebody that is planning on getting into private practice work myself, I wanted to keep the interview directed towards more along the lines of what I would personally experience. Now, some of the roles that she manages through her day-to-day as the owner of Firm Foundations, she does have client care that she does. She keeps her client list relatively small. She does not see many people within a day, and she only works about 3 to 4 days a week, depending. Part of her role as the owner is to work with billing as well as insurance, plus supervise and provide supervision to client care for her other counselors. When discussing some of the things that she most enjoyed and found most fulfilling about this industry, as I mentioned, she was really big and excited about doing the supervision for those that are starting into a career path of psychology. She enjoys teaching and providing guidance. And as somebody that is a licensed Christian counselor, she also enjoys incorporating her biblical worldview within her work. Now, I do want to touch really quickly on that because she brought up a very good point. Even though she does get quite a few of her clients from the church itself, her church and her practice are 2 separate entities, and not every client that comes in would consider themselves a Christian or someone who is seeking Christian counseling. So when it comes to individuals such as that, her biggest focus was consent. She does not automatically start off with a biblical worldview. Now, she does discuss with all new patients her worldview, where she's at, what she does, so they all all are all fully understanding of who she is as a counselor. However, she does ask for consent to incorporate a biblical worldview into their counseling sessions. Most do agree, some will say no, and she does not require them to say yes for her to treat them. I found that to be very important because the last thing you want to do if somebody is struggling, seeking help, is push them away in regards to them not being a Christian or wanting a biblical worldview within their session. So finding the option and the ability to provide consent was a very important factor. And after further discussion, Ms. Hill did say in a lot of cases, because when you go onto her website, it does show that she is a member of the American Association of Christian Counselors, and again, master's degree for counseling ministries. Most of them will bring it up, and they kind of open the door for her to start the conversation, which I found was very interesting and a fun fact. Now, some of the most challenging aspects of this work actually come down to the same thing. It comes down to the paperwork and the documentation. The notes that you take are going to be the most important process that you have. In some cases, you may refer your clients to other licensed psychologists. You may refer them to a hospital. You may just need to refer them to a crisis counselor. The documentation that you have is going to follow them where they go. Having good, proper notes so that any licensed professional counselor can look at them and understand what is going on and be able to provide the same assistance or escalate assistance as needed is going to be the deciding factor between success and failure. Now, the state of Virginia has started focusing on concurrent documentation, which allows licensed professional counselors to take their notes and do their documentation while in session with the patient. I feel as that is the absolute best approach for a couple different reasons. When it comes to concurrent documentation, you are writing the notes down fresh. You know what has been said from your client to yourself, and you're providing clear notes at that very moment, instead of having to rely on memory and recall, which after 10, 15, 20 patients, it can get jumbled together and you may misdocument in one or two patients. The other added benefit to it, and this was something that Ms. Hill was really big on, is if you see 10 patients in a day and you work a full 8-hour day, when you get done for the day and you go and do all your notes, you could be looking at an additional 10 hours worth of work. And again, you're trying to recall everything that was said and done and write the notes and do the documentation properly. If you spend that additional 10 hours doing the documentation, you run the risk of, again, misdocumenting, but you're also no longer getting paid for those services. Now, I know for me and a lot of individuals that are seeking a career in psychology, money is not necessarily the primary motivation for why we chose this path. However, it is the way that we earn a living. So by being able to provide concurrent documentation during the actual session allows for a clear understanding of that session with no memory recall and no chance of mistakes, and you're providing and being paid for that service during that time. Now, the reason I bring this up along with that additional 10 hours of having to document after goes into the self-care. So when I asked for recommendation and advice, Ms. Hill did also touch on another question that I had, which was again, how do you manage self-care to reduce stress and fatigue from your work. And her biggest thing was taking your lunch break, taking vacations, separating work from home. If you spend 20 hours a day doing this every day for the rest of your life, you will burn out. You will get tired and you will struggle. And when you burn out, you're not able to provide your clients the proper care that they need. Now, with that, she also did provide some additional advice, and one of the biggest ones was to read. Now, normally, anytime I am speaking with somebody from this industry, whether it's a formal interview like this, or if it's just meeting them and we're discussing psychology and the career, one of the biggest things that I ask is, what are some of the books that you like to read? And as soon as I asked Miss Hill, her eyes lit up. And she has an entire bookshelf in her office that is overflowing with books. And she pulled probably 15, 20 books off that shelf to show me, and not all of them even began to touch on what she had. Her biggest advice for this industry is to never stop learning. This industry is forever changing. New research is coming out. New diagnoses are coming out. Therefore, you should never stop learning. You also have to continue your education to maintain your licensure. Therefore, you should always be looking and studying new diagnoses, new releases, journal articles, and reading books from reputable individuals. Just to name a few of the books that Ms. Hill provided, there was Think Again by Jared Mellinger, Stop Walking on Eggshells by Paul T. Mason, Healing the Shame That Binds You by John Bradshaw, Defeat Your Anxiety by Jeffrey Sumpolik, I Don't Want a Divorce by David Clark, Healing the Wounds of Sexual Addiction by Dr. Mark R. Laser, Helping Children Survive Divorce by Dr. Archibald D. Hart, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, The Emotionally Destructive Marriage by Leslie Vernick, The Anxiety and Worry Workbook, The Cognitive Behavioral Solution by David A. Clark and Aaron T. Beck. Now, that last one was a very important one for Ms. Hill, as she mentioned that there are workbooks for just about everything that you could find. Those workbooks are a key part of the services that she provides. They help provide assistance and guidance not only to the counselor but to the patient as well. If you're ever unsure, you should always refer to a workbook, because it'll allow for both of you at the same time to grow and understand. Now, one of the other things that came up during the conversation in regards to managing your self-care to reduce the stress and fatigue goes back to a statement I made in the beginning of the interview, and that was Ms. Hill's light caseload. Ms. Hill knows and understands her limitations, and one of the biggest points of advice that she provided, not only for self-care but for anybody in the industry, is to know your limitations. It is admirable. Everybody wants to help as much as they can, but if you're taking 20, 30, 40 clients in a day and you are wearing yourself out, you're not providing the assistance that they need to make it. And you're putting yourself at risk of burning out and falling out of the industry. And you have effectively not helped them and hurt yourself in the process. You should always know your limitations. Do not take on a bigger caseload than you can handle, and don't take on one that is going to burn you out quicker than it should. The last piece of advice that I would like to leave for everybody were the final departing words that Ms. Hill gave me before we ended the interview. And that was, real change only happens through the Holy Spirit. You can provide all the best advice, guidance, medication that you want when working with a client. However, if you are not operating and leading with the Lord Jesus Christ in your heart, then you are not making an everlasting impact. It is essentially putting a Band-Aid on a gushing wound. You don't always have to present a biblical worldview, provide Bible verses for your clients to provide assistance, but if you are operating with Jesus first, then He will work through you to accomplish the goals that He has set forth. When you're proceeding in your career for psychology, always keep Jesus first in your heart. Let Him work for you, and He will provide the guidance and assistance that you need. Again, my name was Matthew. This was for my capstone project for Liberty University, and I hope you all have a wonderful and blessed evening.